heard him.
He's what?
He'll be on Zoom.
Oh.
Very quiet.
Oh, yeah, mine.
You don't have anything to say?
Oh, I probably have plenty
Oh,
to say,
okay.
but can't think of anything right now.
Counselor Bogert, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. But you stopped my video.
You tell me when we're ready to go.
We're ready to go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The hour being 7 p.m. on Monday, April 22nd, 2024. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, I'd like to start with a salute to the flag. I'd ask Councilor Haynes if he would lead us.
Justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'd say there's a delay.
I would
This is like the old school radio days with a little delay, just in case there's any profanity, right, or anything inappropriate. We're joined this evening by our recording secretary and city clerk, Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Susie?
Here.
Counselor Hoffman?
Present?
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Bogert?
Here,
Counselor Felch?
Here.
Mayor Hosmer?
Present.
Excuse me, could you just make sure that Council Bogart announces that he's unable to be here and that he's alone or with anybody?
yes, I am here in a room by myself, no one with me.
Thank you.
Not in a while.
How come he has to be alone? We got all these.
We're also joined this evening by City Manager Kirk Biotti. On our agenda this evening, agenda item number 7 is acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. 7A is City Council regular meeting minutes of April 8th, 2024, which were distributed to the City Council on April 17th, 2024, with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Moving on to agenda item number 8, under consent and action items. Agenda item 8A, temporary traffic order 2024-02, Wake of the Lake. Kirk, I'm going to have you lead a little bit this evening, and could you take the lead on this one, please?
Sure. So Wake the Lake, event that goes on in the Weirs. This is May 17th, 18th, and 19th. They close off the street between Tower and Foster for indoor, outdoor music and entertainment and food and drink. They've done this for a number of years now and are looking to do it again this year as well.
So they're, it looks like the critical aspect of this is not just the cordoning off of Lakeside Avenue, but it's also the organizer of the event is requesting a waiver of all licensing and special event fees. In the past years, council has approved this waiver request. So we actually have 7A and 7B, correct? Which is
Yes.
like
Yes,
same requestor.
8A
one
and
being
8B
for
are
Wake the Lake, the other being for Biketoberfest.
like Timberfest, 8A and 8B on your agenda. Both do very similar setups. We've had very little to no issues with any of them in the history of their events. So, and both are looking for fee waivers.
So, on this first 7A, we're looking for a motion to move to approve temporary traffic order 2024-02, Wake the Lake, approve a waiver of all licensing and special event fees, extend the hours of operation of sound equipment and/or loudspeakers for Wake the Lake from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, May 17th, 2023, and Saturday, May 18th, 2024, and allow alcohol consumption on city property in the designated areas only. pending special events review committee approval. Just quick question, City Manager, will there be dancing as well as alcohol consumption and music?
Should I say it depends on how much alcohol? I'm not sure, but
Not asking about you personally, I'm just saying in general.
they do a little bit of everything up there
There'll be
during this
music and
event.
dancing, just let the record reflect. So, Tony, Counselor Felch, you want to make that motion?
Yes, please.
Is there a second? Second by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this? Counselor Bogert, you're going to have to chime in, shout us, interrupt us.
Roll call.
Right, but if you want to have a discussion, if you want to participate in a discussion, I really need you to just bark right away so I know, and we won't go to roll call until, give you an opportunity to speak, okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
So, seeing no further discussion, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogert?
Yes,
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 8B. This is for Laconia Bike Timber Fest, September 13th to September 15th. And beginning at 5 PM on a Friday, September 13th, ending 5 PM Sunday, September 15th. So we're looking for a motion right now to move to approve temporary traffic order 2024-03, Laconia Bike Timber Fest, approve a waiver of all licensing and special event fees associated with the event, extend the hours of operation of sound equipment and/or loudspeakers for Bike Timber Fest from 10 PM to 11 PM on Friday, September 13th, 2024, and Saturday, September 14th, 2024, and allow alcohol consumption on city property in the designated areas only, pending special events review. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogert?
yes,
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If there are any citizens here who would like to speak to matters not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Step right up. Don't have to raise your hand, just walk right up.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name's Holly Ballister. I'm very concerned about the purchase of the antique store and the Colonial Theater. I don't understand the agenda. I don't see it on the agenda. I wasn't able to come to the last counselors meeting, but the one before, you were gonna have an engineer come in. And I just wondered if that was gonna be discussed tonight, or how would we go about finding out what the outcome of that was. I will tell you, I'm very concerned about my taxes. I've only been here a year, and I've already been raised $2,000. And the purchase of, you haven't paid the bond yet. You have the upcoming work in that building if the purchase goes through. And so I just want you to know, this is a great concern to me. The people I live on Pleasant Street, bought a house there. The people on the street are mostly renters in my area, and they've all had their rent increase because of probably the landlord being taxed more. So my question is, I didn't know what was happening with it, and I'm trying, as a Laconia person, I'm trying to follow what's going on.
So the commercial inspection is being done on Wednesday, so it hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
The hope was originally to have it done before tonight's meeting, but scheduling between the owner and the company, we weren't able to get it done in time. So Wednesday, I can't imagine it'd be more than a few weeks to get a report back. They said they're pretty quick on their report, so we would, at best, be talking about it probably in the first meeting in May. Worst case, the second meeting, depending
And
on how long
my
it takes to report.
understanding is the purchase hasn't gone through yet. It depends on what you find from the engineer's report. Is that correct, or is that not correct? I don't really,
That's correct.
okay.
That's correct.
All right, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Let's move on to agenda item number 13. Under 13A, public hearings, this is ordinance 2024-235-39-A, amending Chapter 235 zoning relative to Article 7, supplementary provisions, Sections 235-39A, general provisions, unsafe structures. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the April 10th, 2024 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. And I would like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:10 PM. If anyone would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one wishing to speak on that matter, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:10 in 33 seconds. Moving on to agenda item number 14, presentations. I'd like to flip-flop and move 14B ahead of 14A, and that this would be the presentation from the Laconia Historical and Museum Society. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tara Shore. I'm the president of the Laconia Historical and Museum Society. We have a few board members in the room, so I'd like to just introduce you to them. Robin Moyer, raise your hand, and Ray Peavy, Warren Hughes, he probably doesn't have to raise his hand, you all know him. Pam Clark. We also have one member in the room. Betty Ballantyne is with us, and I'm pretty sure we have a few others. I just don't have the list in my brain right now. So this evening, we're going to share with you a state of the organization. This is, we are a nonprofit organization here in the city that cares for the city's collections, and we feel that it's important that you as the council and our community understand what we do, what we've been up to, and what we're looking forward to. So it would not be a true historical society presentation if we didn't share some items that are historical from our collection. So this evening you'll be taking a peek at a notebook that was compiled by the pupils of the class of 1928 under the supervision of their English teacher, Miss O'Shea. It's a handwritten narrative of the childhood and educational life of the teachers. Considering LHS is celebrating the 100th year of classes in the current building, this was a great find in our collection. You'll also be looking at a poison bottle from Story Drug Store. This bottle of completely denatured alcohol was a product carried by Story Drug. It was owned, Story Drug was owned by J. Henry Story, and Story Drug was a downtown staple for many years. It was established in 1880, and Mr. Story was a skillful pharmacist. I believe someone may also have some Allen Rogers eggs and salt and pepper shakers. As many of you know, Allen Rogers Corporation was formed in 1932 as a major employer in Laconia. They produced over 40,000 products, most notably the wooden Easter eggs that were produced yearly for the White House. At the top of the egg was a family Easter at the White House, followed by a picture of the White House, and on the opposite side were the names of the President and First Lady. There is a Goss Reading Room photo being sent around, a group of children ready to take home their selections from the Goss Reading Room. Unfortunately, this is one of several photographs we have in the collections that is not captioned in any way. So if you happen to have that photo in your hand and you notice someone that you might know, please let us know. There is also a photograph of the Evangelical Church. The photo shows the destruction after the Great Hurricane of September 1938, which toppled the upper steeple, the belfry, the clock, and the spire. The steeple came crashing down on Chester Ranlett's car just moments after he had left it. There is also a Laconia baseball photo being passed around. This is an incredibly rare find, a clear photograph in great condition of the Laconia baseball team of 1904. And on the back, if you turn it over, it is a full list of names and positions they played. We don't see that often. I believe somebody has the Lady of the Lake Steamboat whistle. That went out somewhere. This was donated to the Historical Society by William Thrippleton, who was a lifelong member of Laconia. graduated from Laconia High School and served in World War II. And I'm sure you've all seen this lovely piece from our collection that sits upon my head this evening. This hat was tucked away safely in an almost pristine hat box marked Bernard's. Bernard's was a women's hat shop, part of a chain of stores owned by Adelard Bernard. It was located at 621 Main Street to the left of the Colonial Theater and closed in the early 1970s. The pieces you see this evening are just literally a skosh of what we hold in the building at 65 Water Street. Those are the collections of the city. We also hold collections from private individuals as well as other organizations that are based or were based in our city. So tonight, the Laconia Historical Museum Society is sharing with you and our community the state of our organization. We need to go back just a little bit to give you a clear vision of how far we've come in just a few short years. In 2020, the LHMS Board of Directors made a very conscious decision that LHMS would continue to follow its mission to protect, preserve, and share the story of Laconia. Staying in step with our changing world, we brought our historical programming and information to the social media platform. With very focused efforts, a year-long history series was shared almost daily on the LHMS Facebook and Instagram pages. You can still see that on our Facebook page. While the world stood still, we took that downtime to review and update our organizational structure and discuss what our goals were for the next 2 to 5 years. And we agreed on the following. Develop avenues to reach a larger audience, starting with creating a more user-friendly website and bringing back the historian, the LHMS newsletter. The newsletter is back and has been running for over a year, and a website is due to launch in the next couple of months. Strong program and event schedule that is interesting and engaging for all ages. You'll hear more about that in a little bit, but we have successfully done that and continue to build on it over the last 2 years. We want to continue to increase our social media presence through relevant and interactive posts and stories. We certainly believe that we've done that. Currently, we are running a Who Is It Wednesday. If you catch it, it is based on teachers in our school district. It's become very popular. A lot of people are having a lot of fun. Reevaluate, reassess, and digitize the city's collection. We are in the process of doing that. Last year, we established a collections committee, added a collections team to support them, and they have been working every other Saturday and every other Monday for over a year in our building. That group of people, 7 of them, have given over 400 hours of time volunteered to the collections itself. Create opportunities to share the incredible collection we have with the Laconia citizens. We have done that over and over and over again. We share and share and share as much as possible. History Happened Here is an event that's coming up soon. That is one way that we share the collections, and we have plans going forward with more ways to share them. Visiting you today helped us share the collection. Keeping all of that in mind, we moved into 2021 quite confident, bringing back our in-person presentations while continuing to build on our social media programs. This allowed us to introduce LHMS and town history to a larger audience. Collaborating with an artist who grew up in Laconia, we supported the printing of an adult coloring book, Color Your Way Through Laconia, Laconia's History, which has now become a series of books that include other cities in New Hampshire and Washington, D.C. We participated in community events and assisted local organizations and businesses in learning about Laconia's history. By the beginning of 2022, we had established a solid foundation of administrative and organizational structure. And although we were now a fully volunteer organization, we had a very strong and dedicated working board. Our program offerings branched out. We offered walking tours of downtown, conducted a historical cemetery tour, and launched a collaborative fundraiser with a local artist. You may know her, Joanna DeCesare. These were all small tests. For ourselves, we needed to see what we could accomplish as a small group of volunteers. And for our community, we wanted to determine the level and scope of community interest in programs of this nature. The results were positive for both parties, and the program committee eagerly began brainstorming the 2023 calendar. I've personally worked with several boards that plan programming from my college days to today. I've never shown up to a meeting with people looking at programming who have followed the mission completely on everything they bring to the table. This group has done that 2 years in a row. It's amazing what this crew brings. We established, in 2023, we expanded upon the already strong program foundation with a full calendar of new and returning programs and events. Our community showed us tremendous support for our various events throughout the year, and our online successes were equal to or greater than in-person ones. For the third year in a row, the Our Yesterdays and Then and Now posts, which are based on articles written by Warren Hughes and published in the Laconia Daily Sun every Saturday, generated the most interest and responses throughout the year. We established a collections committee to oversee the safety and preservation of Laconia's historical artifacts. And as I said before, they dedicated over 400 hours to that to this date. We're very grateful for their hard work. LHMS continues to strengthen its processes and policies, and operationally, the organization is strong, showing consistent growth. Although we're here today to celebrate and share our successes with all of you, we must also address the challenges that we face as a private nonprofit organization responsible for caring for the city's history. A city's identity is formed by its inhabitants through their experiences, their emotions and thoughts, as well as the physical places they frequent, the events they attend, the iconic landmarks they cherish, the memories they create, and the pride they take in their community's achievements. These factors are recorded in various forms as writings, photographs, newspaper articles, personal belongings, and more. And Laconia's identity is stored in our building at 65 Water Street. The preservation of Laconia's history is at risk. Currently, the building requires a new roof and extensive brick repointing. These critical issues must be completed by the end of 2024. To address this urgent matter, our main priority for this year is to increase our membership count, expand our sponsorship outreach, and offer additional donation opportunities. Additionally, we are conducting extensive research on grants and submitting grant applications. And we continue to meet with potential capital donors in person. The recent restoration of several historically significant landmark buildings in this city has generated great excitement among our citizens. These restorations have improved the city's appearance, and revitalized businesses and foot traffic throughout Laconia. Preserving these historical buildings enhances the city's character while safeguarding its history. The Belknap Mill, the Buzzell House, the Colonial Theater, the Laconia Passenger Station, and the Lakeport Opera House all provide vital pieces of Laconia's history. Each one tells one part of its greater story. We believe that 65 Water Street, our simple, not fancy, industrial brick building, is Laconia's most historically significant building in this city. The building's value lies primarily in its present-day contents. The thousands of artifacts representing that many, if not more, parts of Laconia's story. These artifacts are vital to our city's identity, and it is vital to preserve them. Tonight, we come to you all, our community, our council, with a call to action. The identity of our beloved city is at stake, and we actually seriously need help. As the board of directors and volunteers of LHMS, we are doing everything in our power to preserve Laconia's unique character. But we can't do it alone, and we are urging you to join with us in this noble cause and stand up to preserve what makes this city special. We're hoping that together we can make a difference and ensure that our city continues to thrive for generations to come. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Tara. Any comments or feedback or questions? Tara might be willing to listen. No. Thanks for the historic pieces that you shared with us too. I think those are really rich.
They're fun. It's fun to, well, it can be scary, but it's fun to open up a box and see what we're gonna find in there, and we found some really fun stuff. So we'll pick those up from you, because I can't let you have them forever.
Thank you, Tara. Would you share this with the superintendent?
Thanks.
That one is fun.
1956 phone book.
Moving along to 14A, which is a budget presentation from City Manager Kirk Biotti.
Me.
Good evening. So the budget presentation that's presented in front of you tonight, for department heads, it really starts all the way back in October, September, October, when they start working on their capital budget presentations. That moves on to November and December through January, February, and March, working with myself and the finance director to put together what's being presented to tonight as a proposed budget. We all know that with our timeline that we work under, we have almost 2.5 months left before you have the obligation to vote on it, which gives us the opportunity to work through what you have presented with you. You'll hear from all of our department heads, and we can have discussions on what you want to see added, taken out, adjusted, and I think that's what really makes this a great opportunity for all of us to be able to work together over this time frame and come up with a budget that benefits the city the way we would want it to. I won't read through all of them, but included in your proposed expenditure plan is the same stuff we see every year: tax cap information, city and school, county, capital expenditures, and in our enterprise funds, the water and sanitary sewer, ambulance, emergency medical services, and motorcycle week, and the tax increment finance districts. The tax cap, the budget proposal that you're seeing in front of you tonight is tax cap compliant based on the Laconia Charter. You'll notice that on page 3 of your book. What's a little bit different in this year's is that there is an additional proposed expenditure plan, which I'm asking for, which would require a portion of the one of our 3 possible exemptions that are allowed within the charter, and that's on page 4. So what you're seeing in the budget book, as I said, is tax cap compliant. We're not looking, but there is some additions in there that we're gonna have to work through to make an acceptable budget for you to pass. So a little different than what you're normally used to seeing. The amount to be raised by taxes can be increased by 2 different items: the consumer price index and the new construction. Our CPI for the year was 4.13, as we've talked about, giving us just over $2.2 million in new revenue, or new taxable money. And the building construction net value was just under $450,000, giving us a total allowable increase by standard tax cap calculations of $2.7 million. What you see here is our budget summary of how that breakdown would go. There's the one just over $1 million for the city. Adding in the total schools, the school department and the SWEPT, the statewide education property tax money, which does go into the school, those increases are at $1.5 million. Belknap County increases by $179,000. So it was a good year for that, especially compared to last year. The city and school increase, when I talk about the exemptions that we're looking to be able to implement in next year's budget, adds an additional just shy of 1.5 million to the budget. And with that money being directly attributed to wage and benefits, both within the school and in the city side of the budget. The exact breakdown, I'll go slip on to the next page. The exact breakdown still needs to be worked out for the simple reason of, instead of me breaking it down tonight as is, as we would do really with any negotiations, any of the increases that we make, whether it be on the city side or the school side, union or non-union, need to go through some form of a vetting process and a negotiations. For our non-union members, it is more of a, this is what we're looking to do, and we're looking, and if they don't object to it, your approval. For the unions, it would require negotiations. So instead of getting into it too much tonight, understand that as we work through these next 2.5 months, and as we go through our what acceptance level you're looking to approve, that is going to be my opportunity and the superintendent's opportunity to work with both our union and non-union members to come up with what's acceptable is not the right word. What is what makes the correct sense in increasing our wage and benefits for our employees. Any exemptions that we're looking for, as I said, is geared at recruitment and retention of our employees, and as I underlined there, a big piece of that is retention. We certainly know that some of our departments are struggling with recruitment. Our police department is currently, as well as our public works department, are currently having the recruitment issue. But all of our departments in one way, shape, or form are having issues with retention of employees. I think you've heard that. I know we've talked about it at the council level, and you certainly have heard it from many of our department heads during different presentations. And I've asked them that I would like them to speak on that when they come and give their individual budget presentations. So I think it's important publicly and during our budget cycle to hear the issues that they're having within their departments. Some of the new initiatives that we've looked for this year, again, on top of the salary, wage, and benefit changes, we have some money in there in our capital improvements for work at the Gale Memorial Library. They have some pretty significant need for work to be done on their structure, which ironically, when I get to the bond section, you'll notice that bond from their major renovation just came off. But it's been a long time, and it's time for them, they need some work to be done. Increase in our special items, what we always talk about, we get new requests every year from nonprofits looking for some assistance. So we have some new in that this year. We've been able to increase a little bit of money. We've increased our city relief, our welfare department. So as I report out every month, you notice where we have issues with our welfare, our city relief. We were doing really well for a long time. When the requests started going way up, we were getting the offset from some of the COVID money. That is not there anymore, so we are looking to increase that. Wasn't sure how to classify the next one necessarily, but we are trying to put money towards homeless response funding. One of the things that we've been trying to work on is how do we as a city, we can go out and clean, we can go out and do things that are Band-Aids to trying to help with some of the homelessness activity. But how do we be more proactive? How do we out there more? And really it comes down to being able to get people out into the public and working with our homeless population on trying to make things better and work with them. Certainly one of our departments that has a lot to do with them is our police department. I know our commissioners are here tonight. Our funding would hopefully be able to allow them to have people go out and do this work consistently, very similar to how they have put people into the prevention, enforcement, and treatment with the drugs work. That has been a unbelievably successful program. So how do we make something like that, even though they're different, how do we make something like that work? Unfortunately, I'll go back to one of my last slides, until we can get their staffing up, this doesn't work. And the chief and I'm sure he'll talk about it in his presentation. Chief and I have had this conversation on many occasions, and I know him and his department would love to do more. These two things work hand in hand. You know, we have some money in the budget to try to address some of these issues, but we know that we have there's other things we have to fix first before this works. We also have a bond request for still finalizing a couple numbers, but it's going to be just shy. We're right around $850,000 for technology upgrade and cybersecurity improvements. This is citywide, hits a lot of our departments. I'm not going to get into all the breakdown of it because I'll let Glenn do that when he does the finance, which oversees IT, and what they're looking to do with it. And again, almost all of our departments, some way, shape, or form, get benefited by this. Our IT department for the city has been working really hard over the last 3, 4, 5 years with cybersecurity, and it's worked very well, but we're seeing some gaps that we need to improve on, and they're handling that. We've also saw at the audit the other last meeting where they want to see us do some different things with finance, the way we handle our finances from a computer standpoint. This program, and I mentioned it the other night, we're looking at a new program. This is included in this as well. And like I said, I'll let Glenn really work on the specifics of it, but just know it's in there. But there is no principal payment in this year. We're not going to be looking to even request it until January. Excuse me. Continuation of our funding priorities, public safety, our infrastructure upgrades and continued maintenance, our public education, supporting our recruitment and retention of employees, attention to our city growth and development, care of our city parks and fields, continuing to improve technology and related activities, and funding our positive city promotions. Our use of fund balance continues to be unchanged. The last 2 years has been the same at $665,000. It was continuously decreasing, and it went down last year, and we leveled it off this year. And our overall revenue was estimated at $1 million, and I'm going to get to a next slide, which is going to adjust that just slightly. The only thing we're really waiting on right now that I'm aware of out of the state is some retirement bill, House Bill 1279, which if approved, if it successfully went through, it would decrease what we have to pay both from Group 1 and Group 2 police, fire, and teachers to the state. For the city side, it would be about $230,000. Currently, this has been referred to interim study. It looks like I would be hard pressed to say it's going to go through at this point. In your budget packet, even though it shows as revenue, we have identified where it will come from. So if we have to erase that number out of the revenue side, we have identified. As I said, each department will present their expenditures. Our bonded debt did go down this year by 1.4%. The wage benefits, health insurance, as we always talk about, what was described earlier is the reason we're looking for some additional funding this year is to benefit the wage and compensation plans. And again, exactly how that plays out is dependent on what we get for additional funding and how the negotiations work and what we can do between the city and the SAU. We were very lucky this year. Our health insurance rates are only increasing by 7.13%. When this first came out through some listservs that I'm on, we were seeing throughout the state upwards of 20 to 25% increases in health insurance for municipalities. So when I got it that said 7%, I was afraid there was a 1 missing in front of it, and it was 17 or something. But that was a good, still a lot of money, but it's a good increase for us as versus what it could be. Our non-bonded capital expenses are the same that we do most years. Public safety, critical infrastructure, recreation, parks and facilities. We did put money in for multiple parks this year to have work done. Some same in each park, some different. So we're trying to get some money spread around so we make sure everybody gets an equal piece of this. Library renovations we talked about, and our vehicle replacements. Currently, our non-bonded capital expenditures is 2.7 million. That will come down. There was some money put in there as for lack of a better term, as a placeholder, understanding that if certain fundings don't come through, that we'd be able to make our adjustments within that and still be very comfortable in what we're trying to do, and making sure that we continue to not neglect any of our capital responsibilities. We have no new positions requested this year from the city side. We have talked a lot about different positions that we would like to see in the city. Economic development certainly has been one that's been on my priority list since I've had the position, and I know some of you as well. We've talked about what we can do to increase our attention to special events and sort of that city promotion side, whether that's the same person or not. We just didn't have the opportunity to be able to put that in this year. We're trying to focus on our current employees and making sure that we can fill their positions and continue to move on that way. Over the next few weeks, like I said, you'll be meeting with each of our department heads. They'll all be in to present. We'll kick off on May 13th with the SAU, and then throughout the rest of May and most of June, you'll hear from each of our department heads. And certainly, any of the working stuff that we do, I'll be involved with, and we look forward to being able to work with each of you on coming up with what is a good. We think we have a good proposal, and as you guys work through it, making sure that we have an expenditure plan for FY25 that we can all work under. Certainly, I want to thank. He's not here tonight. But Finance Director Glenn Smith and the Finance Department for all the work they did. Superintendent Steve Tucker and I worked very closely together during this process, and all of my department heads and their staffs. One of the things I said last year, maybe I didn't say it here, but I wish I had, so I'll say it now if not. When I took the position a year and a half ago, the first thing I did was meet with all of my department heads. And I said, pretend you don't know me and pretend that you have no idea. I know nothing about you and nothing about the city. Tell me about your department. And to watch their face light up as they started talking was phenomenal. We have wonderful department heads and departments. And I know you all know that, but I don't get a chance to stand up here and say that too often. So I'm going to take my 5 minutes, because you haven't kicked me off yet, and say that about our departments. So we're looking forward to being able to work with you for the next couple of months on getting this taken care of. And getting some increases in what we're looking for with our departments and our employees. So, unless you have any questions for me tonight, I will give you your books, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions for me over the next few months. And those will be also there'll be printed copies at the library and the city clerk's office as well.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Kirk.
you.
Any questions from council? No? Thanks for the work you put in to put this budget together, and look forward to working with you over the next couple of meetings to hammer out a final budget. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a question for the manager. I guess I have a question for the council. I found out today that one more officer is applying out of state because he's not making enough money here. That's 9. And I'm telling all of you, we can't keep doing this. I would like the council to make some statement tonight about the changes the manager has proposed for wages and the I believe it was 2,500, was that correct?
That's later on in the agenda tonight.
Okay. For that other item, I'm begging you to make some sort of a commitment so that employees know we intend to do these things. I know we gotta fight about where the money comes from, I know we gotta fight about what source or whatever, but we've got to tell them, all of them, that we're gonna fix this. Don't move on, give us a little more time, and we'll get you your competitive wage. We can't afford to have surrounding towns paying people more, or having them move out of state because they can make more money. I don't know at what point tonight, Mr. Mayor, but at some point I'd like the council to express that they intend that 3% COLA is obvious, the 5%,
We're still gonna work through all those details.
I understand that. All I'm asking is that we tell our employees, police, fire, public works, city hall, library, Parks and Rec, tell them all, we're gonna work on this. We're not, this is not sort of pie in the sky thoughts. We intend to fix this, and make a commitment tonight that that will happen. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to the mayor's report under agenda item number 15. I did receive a call from Commissioner Arlinghouse this evening from the Department of Administrative Services. He indicated to me he's in the process of terminating the purchase and sale with the developer of the Laconia State School property and intends to aggressively begin marketing that property tomorrow. So I'm sure with all of you, look forward to this next chapter of the Laconia State School property, and hopefully we have a better result in the coming months. I will look to council comments right now. Councilor Cheney, you started off. Is there anything else that you would add to your council comments?
No, I'm sorry I get so emotional about this, but as hard as that would be for many of you to believe, I'm telling you, we're desperate, and please, let's say something tonight to our employees that we're committed to a competitive wage, and hopefully we can do something about the retention bonus. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Felch,
I'm good, other than we will be.
would you like to second Councilor Cheney?
Yes.
Councilor Haynes?
Yes, I support Councilor Cheney's effort.
All right. Anything else to add on council comments?
Yes, I do. I know this is probably it's not as important as employee retention, but I've been able to spend a little time downtown, and I know that the police department has a lot of things to do, but as the foot traffic increases downtown, we have got to start enforcing the crosswalks. Especially the lights by the library and as it goes into North Main Street. We have people that do not understand that when the crosswalk light comes on, you have to stop. And I counted 4 or 5 that just didn't even come to a stop and look, see if someone on the crosswalk. They just go right through it. So, that's all I have, ma'am.
Councilor Susie?
I'll wait for the committee reports.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Councilor Hoffman?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Councilor Cheney said. I think, all of us on the finance committee, as well as the city manager and Glenn, we've all been, I think, having a lot of meetings and working really hard to try to do something for the city employees and balancing that with, with the tax burden on the taxpayers. It's a bit of a struggle in this budget year, but I think we all understand the importance of paying our city employees a fair wage and trying to retain the employees we do have.
Thank you. Any committee reports? Councilor Bogert?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to support Councilor Cheney and his endeavors in trying to push the city with the wages and stuff for the police department, so I do want to add my support for that.
Thank you. Any committee reports?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Cheney, Councilor Hoffman, myself, the city manager, and the finance director, as part of the finance committee, we've met a number of times, discussed this number one subject. We've come up with a number of different scenarios that the city manager has implemented into some of the budget situations. We couldn't bring that out in detail yet at this time until we go through the formal process, okay?
Right.
Which we will be doing. You'll see a couple of motions that we're gonna bring up tonight. Along that, one is a retention situation that we need to pass tonight if we can. That'll send a strong signal. The second one is, I know that the city manager is working on some other stuff that we went through the finance committee on. We've all approved it. We'll bring it in front of the council. One of them has to do with the way as the city manager laid out, the bond, the things that we're allowed to do to stay within the tax cap. We remembered that. We gotta take care of our employees and we gotta take care of our citizens. So we found ways to take care of both things and move forward for year 24, but also for 24, 25 fiscal year. And you'll see all that come across. We can't lay it all out because of discussions that the city manager has to have with the unions, et cetera. But we're all in support of what Councilor Cheney had to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Susie. Any other committee reports?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to make note that the annual Lakes Region Public Access board meeting will be on the 14th of May at 5 p.m. at City Hall. And everybody's invited to come and join us for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bogert. Are there any liaison reports? No committee reports, liaison reports. Moving on to agenda item number 19, which is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. If anyone here would like to speak towards a current agenda item, now would be the appropriate time.
Good evening.
Good
I'm Dean
evening.
Hanson, and I don't know if this is the time to talk about Lafayette.
It's on the
Or-
agenda, so now would be the appropriate time.
Okay, I urge you to put this property, the entire property, into a conservation easement. And we could make it into a pocket park for the people who live on Lafayette. There are a lot of people who use it. And this is one of the most sensitive and critical ecosystems that we have. It's important for the storage of water, to prevent flooding, and to improve the quality of the water, although most of the water either percolates down into the ground or evaporates over time. So by fall, it's pretty dry, but then it fills up again. So I know that you had a certified wetland scientist do a study, and he demonstrated that it is a vernal pool. And, you know, I talked to you the previous meeting about how sensitive these pools are. So they are critical to amphibians, frogs and toads and salamanders. And I talked to some of the residents that live near this site. Across the street, you've heard Mr. Beliveau tell you that he had salamanders and frogs on his property all the time. And the man and his wife who were here last meeting, who live on the left-hand side of the property as you face the property, said they have salamanders and frogs and toads on their property all the time too. So, you know, I told you that scientists have found that these organisms, salamanders, et cetera, will move 300 to 600 feet from the pool's edge. We have a 100-foot buffer. So, anyway, I'm urging you as a Earth Day gift to the city residents that you put this into a conservation easement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Are we allowed to speak to item 23H? I realize it's future, but I guess the question.
Still, if it's on the agenda, sir, you may speak to it.
Okay, I guess question one is, do you
I would ask you to step forward and introduce yourself. That's quite all right.
I'm sorry. Okay, Frank Day, Pleasant Street.
23H?
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Frank Day, Pleasant Street, Laconia. My lovely wife Holly spoke earlier. Other than you haven't scheduled it yet, I'm just asking you get that on the schedule relatively soon, because that is an absolutely horrible intersection down there. So something other than what we're doing would probably greatly aid public safety. I think a light would be ideal, but I don't know what's required to get everybody to sign off on that. But if we could move that from future events to like within the next council meeting or two, I'd really appreciate it. I use that intersection a lot, and it terrifies me. That was it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none, we are passing the city manager's report this evening, and we're going to move right into new business right now under agenda item 21. Under agenda item 21A, temporary traffic order 2024-04 for the History Happened Here Discovery Day event. Kirk, would you walk us through that?
Yep, so the Laconia Historical Museum Society looking to do their event. They did this in the past. They'll have a trolley going through the city with multiple pickups. I'm probably not gonna do Tower Justice, but hopefully I say okay what I'm doing here. And they'll be able to, you know, give tours of the city and the historical aspect of it. It's a really neat event that they're able to do. So they are looking, in your council packet, they are looking to block off some spaces, on New Salem Street, Canal Street, and the City Hall parking lot as well. Not a lot of total spots, but they are looking for some. We've done this in the past, like, again, without any issues. The only thing we're running into this year is there is a separate special events request as well, which will go to their special events committee for closing off Canal Street for an event that night as well. They overlap by about an hour. I don't think it's going to be a big deal to be able to do both. Special events, I did talk to planning. Special events, we'll be able to work with both of them. They're both coming to the same special events meeting. So I don't see any reason why we can't work that out for the Canal Street piece.
Okay. Also on this, the organizer of the event is requesting a waiver of special events and licensing fees, correct?
Yeah, it's $275
Sure.
total.
So right now, I'd be looking for a motion to move to approve temporary traffic order 2024-04 for the History Happened Here Discovery Day event to be held on Saturday, March 11th, 2024, and to waive special events and licensing fees in relation to the event pending Special Events Review Committee approval. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this?
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to mention that I had the opportunity to go on the trolley ride last year. It's well worth it, and it was a terrific day, and it's an enjoyable afternoon or a morning, I think it's planned, but it was very well, it was a good thing to go to.
Good. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 21B, which is a request for a building permit on a private road, 119 Eastman Shore Road North. Would you perhaps walk us through this as well, Kirk?
Yeah, so anytime somebody builds on a private road, they need to get city council's approval to sign a limit of responsibility and liability, just basically acknowledging the understanding that they're on a private road. And I think we've talked about private roads so much recently, we all know that they bring up certain certain issues from being on private roads. So what all this is asking for is that you give me the approval to sign their responsibility and liability notice, and that they, once that's signed, they can then get their building permit signed from our code department.
You want to make the motion, and then we can, maybe, we can have further discussion. You can do it right now, sure.
I'll
go
make
right
the
ahead.
motion.
Okay.
Okay, let's go, well, you can ask right now, Councilor Susie, thank you.
That includes they're responsible for plowing of the road, the whole bit, right? They're responsible, we're not plowing that road.
Right, we maintain it as an emergency lane. So that hasn't changed as of right now.
The emergency lane, we do plow, don't we?
Yeah, we keep it open, and then we maintain it to the ability that emergency vehicles can get through. So, there's certain things we don't do, and then there's certain things that we do.
Okay, you got a question, go ahead.
Was there any, did the DPW raise any questions about, because there was a letter that was sent to the council about
Yeah,
the water issues?
So what I would suggest is that DPW does have to review any drainage. Any building, they have to review the drainage work that's being done and sign off on it. I think probably the best way to do this would be to give me the authority to sign once DPW has signed off that their drainage plan is acceptable and will work for.
Okay.
And they also continue to maintain, to evaluate it as well.
Okay.
So let me see if I get this right. What we're looking for right now is to authorize the city manager to sign on behalf of the city the notice of limits of responsibility and liability regarding property abutting a private road for a property located at 119 Eastman Shore Road North, tax map 36, block 67, lot 22, and authorize the code department to issue a building permit for the same property. City manager has the authority to sign, only if a drainage plan has been signed off on by DPW.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
A motion for that? So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Agenda item 21C, request to authorize the city manager to accept an easement from New Hampshire DOT needed to maintain Pogus Park Road. Go right ahead, Kirk.
So this started back in 2019. The city was requesting an easement. We have drainage work that needs to be done on Pogus Park Road. It is in the DOT right away. We are now have the approvals to get this done and sign the easement with them. So we would just like to get this signed so DPW can get in there and get any work done that they need to do.
It's long overdue work.
It's long overdue work, and we're 5 years into signing the first request.
All right, so right now I'll be looking for a motion to move that the city council authorizes the city manager to agree to the terms as listed in attachment 1 and notify New Hampshire DOT Bureau of Rail and Transit of that agreement. Also, the city council authorizes the city manager to sign on behalf of the city council if the easement meets the city's December 2019 request. If it differs significantly from the city's request, staff, the city shall bring the easement to the city council for consideration.
Yeah, Wes didn't have any issues with the way it was written, and so I think we're good to go.
All right. Would anyone like me to read that again, or are we all on board? Counselor Felch,
We're good.
would make that motion, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Agenda item 21D, request to authorize the mayor or city manager to sign a grant agreement between Laconia Municipal Airport and the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, Bureau of Aeronautics, on behalf of the city of Laconia. The New Hampshire Department of Transportation, Bureau of Aeronautics, has offered a grant for the following projects. SBG 0921-2023, which is to construct West Side Airport Access Road, install utilities, and a Phase 1 design permit bid, and SBG 0922-23, construct taxiways E1, E2, and E3, each approximately 100 feet by 25 feet, which is a Phase 1 design permit and bid. The Bureau of Aeronautics requests the grant agreements be executed by the airport sponsor, which is Laconia Municipal Airport, and returned to DOT, Bureau of Aeronautics, to be submitted to the Governor and Council for approval. There is no fiscal impact for the city. Laconia Municipal Airport is responsible for 5% of the total cost of the grant agreement. The Federal Aviation Administration covers 90%. New Hampshire DOT, Bureau of Aeronautics, covers the other 5%. At the meeting of the Laconia Airport Authority on April 18th, 2024, the authority approved the agreements and authorized the chairman, Andrew Hosmer, to sign the agreements on behalf of Laconia Airport Authority. We are now seeking authorization for the mayor, the city of Laconia, or in his absence, the city manager, to sign both agreements on behalf of the city of Laconia. So right now, we're looking for a motion to authorize the mayor of the city of Laconia, Andrew Hosmer, or in his absence, the city manager, Kirk Piatti, to sign the grant agreements between Laconia Municipal Airport and the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, Bureau of Aeronautics, as described above, on behalf of the city of Laconia. So made by Councilor Felch, second by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Agenda 21E, request for confirmation of not requiring sidewalks on Hillcrest Drive. Kirk, would you lead us through that?
So right now, up on Hillcrest, we are working to try to gain easements to make the remaining portion of that road public. Currently, about 3/4 of it is still private from a subdivision that was put in 1994. One of the questions that Councilor Felch, who's the ward councilor, keeps getting asked is about sidewalks. If the city was to make it public, and that was going to become a public road, would we go in and try to put sidewalks in? Certainly, there's no intent of doing that. And in 1994, when they received the subdivision plan, they also received sidewalk waivers that was approved so they wouldn't have to put them in. So what Councilor Felch and I talked about was, is there an opportunity for the council? Because at this point, you guys would be the only ones that could authorize us to put sidewalks in. Is there an opportunity for us to send a message to them to say, we have no intention of putting them in, even if we were to make this public? It's sort of a reaffirmation. That's the word I'm trying to come up with. A reaffirmation of the
Waiver.
of the waiver that was presented in 1994. So that's
It's kind of a belt and suspenders to make sure that there are sidewalks going in there, and the city is not paying for sidewalks going in there.
the city is not, and it'd be nice to be able to tell them if that question comes up to the counselor that no, we have no intent, and we have no point. We're not intending to. We have no intention of doing it.
Okay, so Councilor Felch moves to reaffirm the August 1994 Planning Board decision not to require installation of sidewalks on any portion of Hillcrest Drive, regardless of the road's ownership. Is there a second?
I'd like to add
Sure.
an amendment to that, and that that sidewalks will not be installed by the city.
Okay, and the sidewalks will not be installed in the city. The sidewalks which we have no intention of requiring, will never be paid for by the city.
Right.
Okay,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Agenda item 21F, personal retention incentive. The city of Laconia, not unlike many other public and private entities, finds themselves in a competitive labor market. Our city employees often find themselves with an opportunity to move to other communities for increased salary and/or benefits. The fiscal year budget addresses some of the salary and benefit adjustments needed to recruit and retain quality city employees. As part of the retention effort, the city manager has been asked to investigate the possibility of extending a $2,500 retention incentive to all City of Laconia employees payable within the fiscal year '24 budget. The total impact of fulfilling this payment is $415,000, depending on the number of employees working at City Hall at the time of the payout. So the recommendation is to authorize, staff recommends the city manager to work with the finance department to pay each city employee a retention incentive of $2,500 no later than the end of the second full week of May. City manager is responsible for identifying the accounts for the funds will be removed from and will report back to the city council which accounts were used. Councilor Susi, I know that you've been working on this. Would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, this is part of the overall meetings, so the workshops we've been doing with the city manager and the finance committee, looking at the whole, as we talked earlier, and Councilor Cheney brought up, Councilor Hoffman, the whole situation with retaining our employees. We've identified a number of different towns and cities within our local area that are just, we're losing people right off the street. I mean, as Councilor Cheney said earlier, we're down 9 in the police department. And I know the Public Works Department has got a serious issue all the time. So, I mean, it's just one more step along the whole package when Councilor Cheney was talking earlier. We're sending a message to employees. This isn't all. We can't divulge everything because we're in negotiations. But this is just a small step forward. Okay? We've been able to identify the funds.
Where, if you can, or maybe the city manager can speak to the funds, how we pay
The
for
two
this?
biggest pots of money would be in salary savings that we've seen because of being unable to fill these positions, which obviously we wouldn't have if all of our positions were filled, but we wouldn't be in this position. And then because of our mild winter that we've had, we do have some money left over a significant amount of money left over in our winter maintenance account. Generally, we don't have that money left over. What we do have left over, we would put into the reserve. The reserve is healthy right now, so I'm not worried about putting more in, needing to. If that was depleted, I'd want to put that into reserve, but I'm comfortable with this. Those would be the two biggest pots of money.
So the city employees that have been identified for a retention incentive, can we itemize those? Who are they?
They're all the city departments and from if you're employed by the city of Laconia, we can't speak for, excuse me, Mr. Tucker, but we can't speak for the school department. But the city of Laconia employees includes all the departments here, includes the water department. The water department has a separate budget. They have the funds within their budget to take care of that. I've spoken to them as a member of the water board, okay? So the only one I can't speak for from what we talked about is the school department.
Correct.
So the city employees identify employees of the Laconia Police Department.
Fire,
Okay, hold on. Laconia Fire Department, Department of Public Works, Water Department, City Hall, but it excludes the teachers.
right,
Or
we cannot,
SAU employees.
right, we can't speak for that staff. That's, Mr. Tucker is here if you want to ask him any questions. And I know that he's been in discussions with the city manager over the same situation.
So is this part-time employees and full-time employees? How are we tiering
So I
this?
hadn't really broken it down until today. My intent is, and again, this is just suggesting, for our employees of 25 hours a week or more, which hit our, the majority of our employees. We have very few that are under that.
So is there a tenure required to get $2,500? If you've worked here a week, do you get $2,500?
No, we hadn't worked out what a tiered system looked like yet, and how, if that was gonna go through, whether we hadn't talked about how long you'd have to be here to get it. We've talked a little bit about if you were here longer than that. I mean, how long you'd have to stay would be a payback clause, like we do with a lot of our incentives. So those two things are still, I knew they'd become up for conversation, and those are still out there as questions.
Okay, Counselor Cheney, sorry, you, yeah, whatever, you can go next, Counselor Sissi, if you like.
Anyway, I would, if I may,
Yeah,
okay, I would suggest, we've got a little bit of time before the next one, but regardless of that, I would turn around and say, like, from my point of view, I would say a part-time or less than 25, that we allow the city manager to prorate based upon the hours if somebody's really a part-time in that sense. And as far as tenure, I'd have to wait for the city manager to make a recommendation, but I would think that we'd ask the person to be here, I don't know,
January 1st.
January 1, as Council Cheney.
So
I'm speaking
January,
for the Finance
if
Committee.
you're, if you were employed by the city of Laconia as of January 1st, 2024, you qualify?
Yes.
That would be my recommendation.
So you could be employed for 5 months and still get the $2,500 rebate, I mean, incentive?
I want to incent people
Just
to
to keep them
stay.
here, yeah.
But giving them the $2,500, they could take the check and leave, right?
They
No,
all can do that.
Anybody can do
Right,
that.
but some who've got longevity here probably would be less inclined to do it.
I wouldn't object to some sort of they could qualify after 6 months or, but
Well,
I,
I have no problem.
Hold on one sec, go right ahead.
Yeah, I have no problem with the January 1st, but as the city manager said, there needs to be some type of agreement that if they leave in a certain amount of time, it gets paid back, or a portion of it gets paid back. Some
something
rated,
like-
that's fair.
So, like, they were here January 1st, and if they leave before December 31st, for example, okay, they're gonna pay back.
and he can work something out.
Right.
He's done it with other
You're right. I'm just giving
stipends
you
before,
we have
so,
options.
yeah.
Oh,
I-
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
could I
please do.
ask a couple of questions? How did we arrive at that figure? First of all, I want to make it very clear, I'm not against it, but I've got a couple of questions. I've had some experience in this field, and there's a lot of questions that we haven't even crossed the line yet.
Nope, to be fully transparent, the number, I won't call it arbitrary, because it's not. Well, when I pulled up that number and we started looking at the number, a couple things had to come up. One, it had to be enough money to show that it was worthwhile. I did not want to come up with a low number and have it not look appropriate. But at the same point, we couldn't be too high, because there's only so much that I can. So that's really where it came from.
Okay.
There are some other places that are using similar numbers, maybe a touch higher, a touch lower. So that's where we've been in.
The other question I have is, and I'm sure it's gonna come up, okay? Is that $2,500 that the city's gonna pay the taxes, or it's $2,500 less? Who the recipient's gonna have to pay the taxes on the $2,500?
They are.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they are.
It's free
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, these are questions that are gonna come up.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I might suggest, Mr. Mayor, I recall from my time years ago, if we sent you to the academy and bought you uniforms and all of that equipment, you had to promise us to stay a certain amount of time beyond, from that point on. I don't know that this is much different. If we give you this 2,500, we expect to get another year out of you, or some number like that.
I would think that someone would have to sign that.
Yeah.
That's contract.
They will.
I mean, that's contract's gotta be signed.
Which would have to be negotiated as well then.
Which was
Which would have to be negotiated, the signature, you get, once you start signing, understandable, the unions don't want us
Right.
just throwing
My
contracts out.
my concern on this, I have a couple. One, I think the premise of giving a retention incentive is what we should be doing. I'm just hoping that it gets the impact that we want, which is we retain people. I'm also just aware of, length of tenure, hours worked on, per week, were you full-time or part-time? Some of these things you have to figure in. I mean, if I were the 20-year employee who'd been, working full-time, and I'm getting the same as someone who has only been here for a couple of months and, maybe not worked full-time, I'm just wondering whether there should be we should empower the city manager to consider a tiering of this, just for consideration purposes.
At his discretion.
Yeah, and I think I think we're going to meet before the pay period mentioned here.
Correct,
So
we have
could
another,
actually
we
come
have
back
another
with a
city
tier.
council meeting.
We
before
can
that.
always go back to this and, and you can call the question and vote for 2,500 and do it any way you want, but I'm wondering if there's another way to do this, to tier it, to make it a little more equal and certainly make a significant statement of appreciation for our city employees, which I think is powerful.
I'll move be returned back to the finance committee.
You can do that. One thing I'm struggling with a little bit, I'm actually struggling with it a lot, is how do we leave our employees of the SAU out of this? How do we leave our teachers who've been frontline folks for some tough years starting in March 2020? How do we leave them behind and not show our appreciation? Because I would think, and I'll pose the question at some point to the superintendent, our high-quality teachers are gonna get poached from other districts as well under similar circumstances, so what can we do?
It was not our intention. From our original intention, we were speaking about the municipal city employees. We were talking with the city manager, who was talking to Superintendent Tucker about all of this, and we had to leave in their hands, because we had no real situation on our budget. And this is the teachers' situation. Also, we didn't want to overstep our bounds when it comes to the teachers' union.
So,
No, but, go right ahead.
so one of the reasons I can see why is because it's a separate budget compared, it's basically a separate budget, even though it's included in the whole in the city, just like the water department is, it's coming out of their budget. So if the school department can find some money in their budget, that would be great. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, certainly. Sometimes when I think of the city of Laconia, I think of us all being on the same team, if you will.
Oh, and I
It's
agree with
SAU
that.
employees, it's
Yeah.
teachers, it's firefighters, it's the people in City Hall, it's our water folks, it's our police department. I understand there's some differences there, but I often think that they're sort of the backbone of the city in all departments. And if morale's high, retention is high, recruitment is going very well,
I mean, this time it's
I
finding
think
the
that's
money
good for
to
all
do
of
it.
us. I get it. I understand that, and I'm wondering if we do tier, can you spread it a little farther? Honestly, I don't know. It seems like a stretch, but I do feel sort of awkward leaving particularly our teachers and our frontline folks with our kids
Like I said,
behind.
it was not our intention.
I didn't think it was, and I wouldn't imply that. It just popped into my mind within the past.
So
Few
I'd like to
days.
continue on my motion that we return this to the finance committee.
Yes, and
to
we've still
work
got
with the
time to work on this.
City manager and the superintendent, and we'll come back with another proposal.
We're moving in the right direction. I applaud the work that you have all done on this, and your sense of equity and fairness, Counselor Cheney in particular, and passionately you speak, so.
Just
Yeah.
one more thing, since it is a retention bonus, I would say they'd have to stay a year after that bonus is given out.
I have no problem with that, but
Yeah.
let's see, because.
Because it's all about retaining.
The only thing, Tony, I have to make sure, and I'll leave it up to the two leaders here, how we gotta incorporate it into, how does that affect the union side? Okay, just make sure it all integrates, so everybody's
I
agreeable.
understand that.
That's all.
If I could just make a comment, similar to what I talked about with the budget presentation earlier, I think that if we can come to an agreement on how we want to make this look, and just in the few minutes we've been here, those couple different things being thrown out there, superintendent and I can certainly work together with the finance committee, and have some options with different funding, not only sources, but costs, and something that we can all work together on, so I think that would work really well. I look forward to it.
The numbers will lead us to the conclusion.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
No, look
That's
forward to
what it's
it.
gonna be. So,
And,
okay.
and we're gonna, like I said, we do have a meeting, this is a long month, so we have an extra week in between, and, so we'll have our finance committee meeting and still back in front of the council well before next meeting.
Yeah. and,
Excellent.
They all know that
We've
we're
got to
working
put
on
this
it.
on the table if we want to
Make
continue.
a motion to table.
Motion to table by Counselor Susie, seconded by
By
Counselor
Counselor.
Haynes. This is non-debatable, so I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative. This item is tabled and assigned to the Finance Committee for the work, okay?
Mayor, may I ask that the chairman advise the rest of us? I realize that once it goes to committee, we don't have any comments or any suggestions, but I think a number of us would like to attend just so we could hear the
We'll
conversation.
let you know when the meeting takes place, and you're perfectly welcome to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, we have 2 items left this evening. And we have a non-public, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Unfinished business 22A, which is ordinance 2024-235-39A, amending Chapter 235 zoning relative to Article 7 supplementary provisions of 235-39A, general provisions on safe structures. Kirk, you want to walk us through this before we get to the series of motions right now?
Yeah, this is an ordinance that we've been working on for a while, and we finally pared it down to what is definitely workable for us. It will prevent structures that are in what considered ruins or burned out and uninhabitable, to just sit there for months and years on end without anything being done with it. This gives a 6-month window that either remediation, repair, or removal has to take place. It allows our planning and code departments to have some legal backing to require something to be done about it. And certainly, I just wanted to make a mention, we do have a 6-month hard end on it there, but certainly we understand that, in case there's anybody wondering, we do have opportunities all the time where somebody may come in and say, hey, I'm 6 months in, but I have my contractors all lined up for 7 months. Well, this is what we're looking to get you to do. So we will work, our planning and code departments will certainly work with you. What we can't leave is just something sitting there forever. It's not fair to the neighbors.
So what I hear you, if the intent of the owner of the property is working in good faith to demo the property, rehab the property, then that's one thing. If it's their intent to not demo the property, not to renovate the property, the last thing we want to do is have a burnt-out shell of a structure.
Right.
1, it's dangerous. 2, it's bad for other property values as well, and in a street that it's on, correct? And
absolutely.
We've experienced that.
We've experienced that.
Okay. So,
This has the strong support of the planning department.
thank you. So we have a series of 3 motions. The first is to move to waive a reading of the ordinance in its entirety, read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, clerk would call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Looking for a second motion here to move the second reading of ordinance 2024-235-39-A, amending Chapter 235 zoning relative to Article 7, supplementary provisions 235-39, capital A, general provisions as presented. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally here, looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2024-235-39-A, amending Chapter 235 zoning relative to Article 7 supplementary provisions of Sections 235-39A, general provisions as presented. It's a lot going on there.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do have a discussion before you move to vote.
Okay, let's move to first and second. Fantastic. Is there a motion so made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman? Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bogart?
Yes, I just had a question for the city manager. If this ordinance amendment also entitles the city to lien the property if it goes in and removes the burned structure so that we can recuperate our money?
It would help us get to that point. That is still a long process to go through. This is one more card in our arsenal, if you will, to help us get to that point. So the answer is not necessarily yes 100%, but it certainly does a lot more once we get to court to do that.
Step towards it.
Yeah, a much bigger step towards it than we have right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on the public agenda tonight, we've got item number 22B, which is request to make city-owned land located on Lafayette Street, parcel number 444-12617, conservation land. We've heard this discussion earlier. You have a Lafayette, not a discussion, we had someone spoke to it, Mr. Hanson spoke to it earlier. This is Lafayette Street, which is attached. Kirk, could you walk us through this just a little bit?
Do you want to leave it on the table right now, or do you want to?
Can I,
Take it off the table.
can I first? I'd like to leave it tabled until we see the report.
Yeah, we were supposed to get a report.
Yeah, we haven't seen the report yet.
If you want to leave it on, it's up to, I guess it doesn't. We have it here. We have the report here for you to see. It
Wanna get the
just was finished this afternoon.
How about we get the, let's get the report to the council for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
it's not gonna go anywhere.
No, we can do that. We just had it, it was just completed late
No,
this
I
afternoon,
understand
so, or at least
Okay.
the part that I'm having Rob show us, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next step, we're going into non-public session under RSA 91A3. Which subsection on that, Kirk?
It's the real estate. It's the real estate one, it's.
Got it, it's
you
a
got it?
D.
D.
So we're gonna head into non-public session right now at 8:32 PM, according to RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those in the general community.
Thank you, Nick. Do you want me to step up for this one? We don't, yeah, Trey, 'cause he needs to be, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hey, George,
Do we leave Counselor Bogart on, or are we just?
I did ask Rob to stay. Fine.
Can we without it being live?
May I use your pen?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
I said we'd be out of here at 10.
Need to ask him before we.
We might just make it